What do you think is one of the first things someone who's reasonably intelligent would look at when opening a business? Whether there's a market for your product. If you go and, I don't know, let's say try and open let's say a burger shop and open one in the Arctic, I doubt you're going to get many customers. In the same way, if you open, I don't know, an ice cream parlor up there where there's no one but the penguins, you're not going to get too many customers. Now, I'm being deliberately somewhat ludicrous with those two examples, but you'll see why I chose them in a minute. The whole thing about opening any business is that you need a market. And for example, in London in recent years, you'll have seen there's an awful lot of Eastern European and Polish supermarkets because guess what? There's an awful lot of Eastern European people living in London. So, of course, they want to be able to buy foodstuffs they're familiar with back home. So, of course, people either from that community or people who are business people have caught on to it. But anyway, let's get on to this as it relates to burgers in Birmingham and the burger chain Five Guys, which of course is the most pressing concern in a world concerned with wars in Eastern Europe and Donald Trump trying to do peace settlements there. The most pressing concern in the world is, of course, one burger shop in Birmingham not selling some burgers. But leaving that aside, because it's so silly and because I have a strong sense of the ridiculousness of things and a satirical streak, let's listen to this stuff. The intolerant nature of Islam as compared to Christianity and Sikhism, as examined using a Five Guys burger shop in Birmingham, it would appear. Let's have a listen to this.
Hello again. Most people like a drink from time to time.
Yes, I like the occasional drink, Simon, as well. Not all that often. I'm not much of a drinker. But anyway, leaving that aside, that differs from religion to religion. And that's a rhetorical opening. But go on.
For my own part, I am a fanatical temperance man, and I never touch the stuff. But that doesn't...
Again, your choice, Simon, if you don't touch the stuff, neither good nor bad from my point of view.
Of course, mean that I wish to see others being deprived of the opportunity to have a glass of beer when they fancy one. If I go out for a meal, I don't go out of my way to find a restaurant which forbids the sale of alcohol, because frankly, that would be a bit mad. I simply order a glass of water or orange juice instead. And then other people drink alcohol if they feel like it. Most normal folk behave in the same way.
Yes, they do. And in your example, which is going to come up in a bit, you're going to use a restaurant chain, Five Guys. Now, Five Guys has, I don't know how many branches, it's a very large number. It has, in this area of London, I could think of quite a large number of its branches nearby. And I suspect if I was to take the whole of England, it would be a large number indeed. I'm not going to bother go and count them up or go and look at their website, but it wouldn't be a trivial number. And we're talking about exactly one restaurant here, which we'll get back to in a minute.
I know Methodists who were very much opposed to alcohol, but they didn't seek to stop others enjoying a drink. They just didn't take the stuff themselves. I've also known devout Sikhs who were also strictly teetotal. This was their choice based upon their religion. Just like me, if they were eating out, they wouldn't order alcohol, but stuck to soft drinks.
Great, you're now 1/3 of the way into this video, and you've given us a load of truisms, basically, that some people do drink alcohol, some don't, and some prefer not to for religious beliefs. I have no problem with all of this, but they're truisms. They're statements that are self-evidently true. They're personal choices based on someone's own moral choices. Let's see how you keep going.
All this sounds so sensible and moderate that I don't believe anybody could possibly object to it.
No, of course not. Well, why would they? I don't particularly like to drink spirits, so I never do. Some people do, and they will.
Some of us choose not to drink alcohol, but we are indifferent if other folks fancy a drink. It's nothing to do with us. The case is, of course, quite different with Islam. It's not enough for some Muslims to go and have a bite to eat somewhere and just not order a drink. They want to ensure that nobody else can have a drink either. I have never heard of any member of any other religion behaving in this way.
We'll be coming back to that at the end of this video.
As a result, half a dozen branches of the Five Guys fast food chain, where people go for hot dogs, hamburgers, bacon rolls, and perhaps a beer.
And we'll be coming back to that claim about half the branches. Let's go back to that. Make sure he really said that.
Hamburgers, bacon rolls, and perhaps a beer, where people go for hot dogs, hamburgers, bacon rolls, and perhaps a beer, have been declared halal, which means that there must be no alcohol on the premises.
Now, he used a link from the Birmingham Mail to support himself, and we'll be coming to that, back to that, because I've opened the link he used. Now, Webb is constantly putting these links up. Now, I wonder, does he either read these links in detail, or does he presume his readership do not read them? Because when I finish this, I'll read it out.
In this way, some Muslims are preventing anybody from having a drink at those branches, or indeed...
I really doubt Birmingham City Central, which I'm very familiar with for particular reasons from years previously, is short of places to eat a burger. It's crammed to the gunnels with burger places and restaurants. You could hardly move around the place without finding somebody to buy a burger up there. And it's become ever more so in recent years.
Enjoying a hot dog or bacon roll, because they're not on sale anymore there either. Nobody has ever forced any Muslims to eat bacon in such places or to consume alcohol, but now nobody else will be able to enjoy those things either.
I really doubt, Simon, that you are running down to Five Guys and running down there for the burgers and milkshakes very often. I've got a funny feeling that you're not tripping the light fantastic through their doors to buy a creamy, thick milkshake and a burger down there all that often. Could be wrong. Could be an unexplored customer base in there that I'm unaware of 75-year-old geezers buying big chunky burgers in Five Guys. But possibly it's an unexplored customer market sector that they need to look into. But leaving aside me taking the piss there, and I admit I am quite readily, we'll come back to the news article about it, which is rather different from your representation of it.
Strange dog in the manger attitude is exclusive to Islam. As I say, devout Sikhs and Jews have their own rules for what they eat and drink, but they wouldn't dream.
Sure, and so do other religions have their rules about what they eat, although with some of them it's seasonal and not all the time, and some of them they'd argue between themselves even within denominations, etc., etc. But let's leave all that aside. That's all stuff for people who have an interest in it, and I imagine it would bore the heck out of many people, as it comes under the heading of theological niceties that people would argue about.
We're trying to force other people to abide by them. Only Muslims do such things in this country. In the description to this video, I give a link to a news item about this matter.
You certainly do, and let's have a look at the news article. Five Guys make major change to Birmingham store. Birmingham Live. You can tell this is a top quality article. This is a link from the man who tells you not to trust mainstream media, and that you couldn't make it up, really, could you? Baking hot dogs and alcohol have been removed from the Fort Dunlop store. Five Guys announced a major change to one of their Birmingham stores. One. The burger chain has made the decision to make their Fort Dunlop's restaurant halal, and it's one of only 5 guys in the country to use halal beef. One restaurant. In order to comply with being halal certified, bacon, hot dogs, and alcohol have been removed from the Fort Dunlop Five Guys. Birmingham is a fairly large city for those who have been there and wandered around. It's not exactly 3 people and a dog or something. And as I say, the city centre is crammed with restaurants. You couldn't avoid them. It's a major tourist area. It's just like any other city in the UK like that. They're all crammed with restaurants, probably far more than are actually really required. And half of them go broke within a year or two. So one restaurant in a chain is doing halal beef. And this is a major event. Righto. Now, Simon keeps going on about other religions. Now, of course, other religions, like any other religion, are going to do the same thing I mentioned at the beginning. They're going to sell a product where there's a market. And if we go and look at here's Kosher Burger King, where people wanted to have a complex in Miami in the USA. And there's a reason for that, because Miami is a hot spot for retirement for Jewish people in the USA. And a lot of elderly Jewish people retire there. And of course, they might want to go and buy a burger, or their kids might want to buy a burger when they visit them, or when Granny and Granddad take them out for a treat or something. Shocking. So obviously, building a kosher burger place there would be locking out all the non-Miami residents from going to that Burger King. They couldn't possibly decide, hang on, I'll just go up the road and go to another restaurant, could they? Oh, we have Mocha Burger in Times Square in New York. That looks like a bit of an artisan burger place, which looks, quite frankly, a bit like the high-end burger place you get in London where it's 20 quid for a burger. And I suggest, yeah, well, that the only people going there are people with more money than sense. And then we have Burger Spot in New York, which prides itself on being a kosher burger place. It may or may not be a good burger restaurant. I have no idea. I don't live in New York. But this seems a sensationalized load of nonsense about nothing. A burger restaurant in Birmingham is somehow being used to advance the idea of a religious conspiracy theory. Quite loopy, to be quite frank. If this is the best you can do in commentary about other religions, I would suggest it would be a good idea to stop right there. And as a final point, here we have a scare over McDonald's, whether they were or not using kosher meat. Well, I can understand why people would ask this about McDonald's knowing the quality of their meat. It's quite an old article. It's 15 years old, but considering the quality of McDonald's meat, I'd be more inclined to ask, is it actually meat at all? Would have been my question. But I can understand why somebody might ask those questions. The idea that you're going to use one restaurant in Birmingham to somehow advance some strange, gigantic claim about Muslims as a whole strikes me as ever so slightly bizarre, but perhaps it's gone over my head. Perhaps I'm just an average guy and I just use Wikipedia to look things up and don't possess the intellect to understand these high-flown concepts.